Pushing Back the Shadows, support and awareness for mental health. Hello and welcome to episode 42 of the Pushing Back the Shadows podcast. My name's Alex Davis. I'm the founder of Pushing Back the Shadows. So, I've been having a couple of thoughts over the past few weeks about what I can do in terms of the podcasts, and this episode is going to be the start of a new series. Okay, it's going to be a 5-part series looking at my 6 big mental health questions. I know what you're thinking. 5-part series, 6 questions, how's that going to work? But you'll find out, okay? But so I'm going to be looking over the next couple of weeks at the big questions that I would have about mental health. And some of these might be questions that you think, yeah, do you know what, I've had that question before as well. I kind of want it answered. And that's what I'm going to do. I can't promise there'll be answers that you like, but I'm going to answer them according to how I've found answers. So what are these questions? Well, I'm going to start by looking at the one that I think is one of the big ones that we all have. What did I do to deserve this? You know, whatever condition we live with, what did I do to deserve it? Next up, I'm going to look at how do I cope with this? Because we wonder that, don't we? How are we meant to cope with our mental health condition? Number 3 is going to be where can I find support? Because it's amazing in today's world, you know, given all the hyperconnectivity that we have with all the social media and the internet sites and so on, how people still don't know where they can find support. It's still not talked about as much as it should be. Number 4, will I ever be me again? It's one that I've asked, and I've heard a few people ask it too. Number 5, how do I make others understand? How do I get them to understand what I'm going through? And finally, number 6, what do I do now? Where do we go from here? Yeah, I know, that's 2 questions rolled into one, but it is questions that we ask. So let's have a look. Let's tap into this first part of the series. What did I do to deserve this? It's an important question. It's one that we've all asked at some point. So let's answer it. You're listening to Pushing Back the Shadows. So come on then, what did I do to deserve this? What did I do that was that bad that I should be given the load that I have to bear? Those of you following my story know that I struggle with depression, anxiety, insomnia, and most recently been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And you kind of got to wonder what I did that was that terrible that I should be given all of this. Some people, because there are plenty of answers out there, some people put it down to a multitude of things because we live in this culture, don't we, where if something happens to us, we deserve it. If something is wrong in our lives, we must have done something wrong. Don't we? It's a very wrong versus right culture. You know, if your life is going well, you must be doing something right. If things aren't going so well, oh goodness, what did you do wrong? And there are, as I've just said, a multitude of answers. I mean, some people put it down to karma. You must have done something bad. What goes around comes around. Others would say, I must have done something really bad in a past life. Some would put it down to faith. You must not have enough faith, clearly. But what is it all about? What did I do to deserve this? As I've already mentioned, we live in this culture of right and wrong. People will look and they'll say, well, oh goodness, if if you haven't got the best life, then, clearly you're doing something wrong. I mean, you think about, there was an article that I'd read sometime, about a week ago now, and they'd said that this kind of self-made millionaire, I can't remember whether she was a teenager or whether she was kind of in her 20s, but this self-made millionaire had pretty much turned around and said, it worked for me. If you guys aren't millionaires, then clearly you're doing something wrong. And that seems to be the way that we kind of lean to now, isn't it? If we have depression, if we have anxiety, well, clearly you're doing something wrong. But then it also ties into this concept of we're just not trying hard enough. I mean, these you get these cartoons and that, and I quite like following some of them, where they kind of compare mental health to physical health, and if they treated physical health with the same kind of stigma and bias that mental health gets. Things like, have you tried not being in a coma? Oh, come on, you can walk on that leg, it's just broken, clearly you're not trying hard enough. And it ties into that as well. It's not just wrong and right, it's that we're not trying hard enough. And that all feeds into this feeling that we deserve what we're going through. Wouldn't you say? This feeling that we deserve it because somehow, whether it's the choices that we're making, whether it's the effort we're putting into it, or whether it's just who we are not good enough. And therefore, we deserve it. Do you find that? That people will have that kind of mindset to it, that we deserve it. And then take that other point that I mentioned about the some of the religious views. You see them, and this is something I've talked about a lot before, particularly in one of these posts, because those of you who've read some of these posts know that I am a Christian. But sometimes I do have a problem with religion, and that's one of the posts that I've written on the subject, because I find that I disagree with some of the viewpoints that come out of it. This concept that, and this is something I see a lot on Twitter, believe in the Lord your God and everything should be made right. Accept Jesus into your heart and all your problems will be taken care of. I'm sure some of you have words for that, and I'm not going to, mention those on air. But I find that I do agree with some of the viewpoints that those opposed to these statements would put across. Because it isn't as simple as that. It doesn't matter what you believe. It is not as simple as that. And particularly men with depression and that find it difficult to talk about it, but also Christians and depression, or Christians and mental health, are also one of these marginalised, stigmatised communities. Because we get told, well, if you're depressed, then clearly your faith isn't strong enough. If you're anxious, you clearly don't trust God enough. Whatever it comes down to, we are labelled as not being enough. And as I've just mentioned and kind of listed off the examples, it seems like the problem always comes back to us. That we're either doing something wrong, not trying hard enough, have done something dreadful sometime in a previous life, or we don't have enough faith or trust or something, but we are not enough. Which makes us think we deserve it. We think we deserve it. And it is almost, it's not really listed as a symptom, but it is a very, very common thing where people say, well, no, I must deserve this. I deserve it. I do. I deserve to be this way. So what did I do to deserve this? Enable Pushing Back the Shadows to continue supporting people in the mental health community, their friends and their family. By pledging just $1 a month, you could help us to continue supporting people with depression, with anxiety, with bipolar and other mental illnesses. You can also unlock exclusive rewards, behind the scenes, sneak previews of upcoming posts and much, much more. So head over to www.patreon.com/Alex Davis PBTS to find out more. So come on, what did I do to deserve this? Well, the bottom line is, and some of you might not like this answer, the bottom line is that you did nothing to deserve this. Now please take a note a second before you take offence to that. It's not me saying, oh, you deserve this because you did nothing, as a criticism. No, this is, you did nothing to deserve this. Because really none of us deserve to have a mental illness. It is what it is. You wouldn't question if you had a physical illness. You wouldn't say, oh, great, I've got pneumonia, what did I do to deserve this? No, you wouldn't do that. Nobody would. Not even those who've got no experience of mental health. So let's put the two side by side. If your physical health, you did nothing to deserve the way that your physical health is, then nor did you do anything with your mental health to deserve it. It's just the way it is. None of us have done anything wrong to deserve this. Now, one of the things I'd mentioned is if you're doing things right, if you're doing things wrong, if you're not living your life the way that it should be lived, then it's your own fault. Well, let's think of celebrities. They look like they have the perfect life. You know, they're doing what they love, they're earning the money. In some respects, they have a great platform to make campaigns for changes that they want. And yet, even they are not exempt from these sorts of conditions. Now, that's not me putting them on a pedestal and saying they're like gods, because they're not. They're people like you or me. But they're people that we look at and we think, yeah, do you know what? You've got it all. You have everything you could want. But there are some celebrities who do struggle with these conditions. I'll give you some examples. If we look down the list of depression, for example, you have famous names like Kristen Bell, Jim Carrey, Ellen DeGeneres, Cara Delevingne, Johnny Depp, Eminem, Chris Evans, Harrison Ford, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, John Hamm, Anne Hathaway, Angelina Jolie, Lady Gaga, Hugh Laurie, Demi Lovato, Gwyneth Paltrow, Dolly Parton, Matthew Perry, Michael Phelps, Ryan Phillippe, Brad Pitt, J.K. Rowling, Brooke Shields, Britney Spears, Channing Tatum, Emma Thompson, Kerry Washington, Owen Wilson, Reese Witherspoon, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and I'm sure there are many, many more. And that's just depression. I mean, if we look at anxiety, people like Emma Stone, Amanda Seyfried, John Mayer, Lena Dunham, Caitlyn Jenner, Oprah Winfrey, and Ellie Goulding, they come out to the forefront. And even then, you go to things that are less known, like borderline personality disorder, and already we've got people like Marilyn Monroe, Britney Spears, Amy Winehouse, Daryl Hammond, Scotty Levy, aka Raven, Brand Marshall. It is far more common than we would like to admit. But you tell me, what did these people do wrong? What did any of them do to deserve this? Well, as I've already said, the bottom line is they've done nothing. Same as you, same as me. Look on the bright side. In this particular scenario, you're exactly the same as a celebrity. You see, one of the things that people seem to miss when it comes to mental health is that it is not a discriminatory illness. Yes, people discriminate against it, but the illnesses themselves are indiscriminate. They don't care whether you've got everything or nothing, whether you're in perfect health or not, whether you've got a family or not got a family, whether you're loved or unloved. However your life is, mental illness does not care. It can affect anyone, anywhere, at any time, regardless of social standing, wealth, family, whatever. And that's the bit that people miss. So looking back at this big picture, we do not deserve it. Nobody is out to get us, it's not our previous life catching up with us. It's not what goes around comes around. It's not God playing the king on the hill saying, oh, you don't have enough faith in me, so I'm going to give you this. That's not how it works. It is what it is. And you, and me, we don't deserve it. It's up to us to make the best of it. But we don't deserve it. Well, that's all from me for this week, so thank you ever so much for tuning in. Next week we'll be looking at the question, how do I cope with this? And I'm sure that's one that that you've thought of, because I know I certainly have. But it's a question that we often wonder because we feel like our mental health is something we cannot deal with. So join me next week when I look at that question. Also, quick shout out to our patrons. Thank you to Samuel, Louise, Luce, Samantha, Cheryl, Yisun, Shirley, Tamara and Alex. Thank you for everything that you do, guys. All your contributions. We really do appreciate it. And for the rest of you listening, if you want to get involved, all the information will be coming up just after the final segment. Okay? Final segment, the closing clip. Alright then. You guys take care. I'll catch you next week for part 2 of our 6 Big Mental Health Questions series. You take care. You've been listening to Pushing Back the Shadows. To find out more, head over to pushingbacktheshadows.com and hit subscribe to get all of our latest updates straight to your inbox. Alternatively, connect with us on Facebook, which is facebook.com/Alex Davis PBTS, or you can visit us on Twitter at Alex Davis PBTS. Enable Pushing Back the Shadows to continue supporting people in the mental health community, their friends and their family. By pledging just $1 a month, you could help us to continue supporting people with depression, with anxiety, with bipolar and other mental illnesses. You can also unlock exclusive rewards, behind the scenes, sneak previews of upcoming posts and much, much more. So head over to www.patreon.com/Alex Davis PBTS to find out more.